Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Declutter 360 podcast. We are talking more this week about minimalism. And if you joined in last week, if not, I invite you to maybe pause this episode, go back and listen to last week's episode first. It was part one of Let's Get Minimal. And yes, I've had Olivia Newton-John stuck in my head for 2 weeks now, but we are getting minimal again today. So last week we talked about how minimalism doesn't need to look like the extremes that we may be picturing in our heads. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach for us to be able to embrace minimalism in a way that feels accessible and good to you so that you can feel empowered to make choices that help you to keep the clutter to a minimum or maybe eliminate what feels like clutter to you in the long run. Because as you know, such a crucial part of staying organized, and we talk about this all the time here on the podcast, is the fact that you are only leaving yourself to manage the things that truly matter to you, the things that you use and love and need, right? So today I want to kind of take this a little bit, another step further. And I talked a lot last week about minimalist principles, right? And I also talked a lot last week about how there's this whole broad spectrum or this continuum of what minimalism can look like for your life. And that it's really up to you. It's a personal choice, just like any organizing decision, any decluttering decision. Where you're going to fall on that minimalism continuum or that minimalist continuum, however you want to say it, where you're going to fall on that is entirely up to you, my friend. Now, that can feel very empowering. It can also feel like a lot of responsibility, right? But this is a really awesome kind of responsibility that should feel empowering and should allow you to feel freer, allow you to feel less of the frustration, overwhelm, stress, all of that that comes with managing clutter on a regular basis. And so today I want to dig in a little bit more into a few of my favorite minimalist principles and kind of what you might be looking for to help apply and bring minimalism into your life, and how you can make decisions about where you're going to fall on this minimalist continuum, right? What feels the best to you? What feels balanced for you? So the first one that really stands out for me, and I bet when I say this, you're going to say, oh yeah, that would stand out for me. That makes sense as being a minimalist principle, is just the idea of simplicity. Keeping things a little bit simpler for yourself. So when we think about how simplicity could look on a continuum, it requires knowing and using items, owning items, maintaining items in your home that are essential. And only you get to decide what's essential, what looks like your essential needs for whatever the task may be. What are your essential products to have in the bathroom? What are your essential kitchen gadgets? That is going to depend. Your kitchen is absolutely going to depend on what kind of a person you are in the kitchen. Are you someone who loves to cook, who cooks intricate meals regularly? Maybe you're someone who entertains regularly. Your essentials are going to look different in the kitchen from someone who does not cook, or who doesn't enjoy cooking, or who doesn't like to entertain. And that is perfectly okay. right? But you have to know yourself in each space of your life, each space of your home, to be able to make those kinds of decisions on what's essential and what's fluff for you. And sometimes there's kind of some gray area in there. I'm someone, I love to cook, but and I cook regularly. I cook multiple nights a week for my family, but I tend to cook the same kinds of things over and over again. So I am constantly going back through my kitchen stuff and trying to decide what was like a crazy gadget that I put on my Christmas list one year that I may not have ever ended up using, or maybe I've used it once, but it just really doesn't come in handy and I could get around like not having that. I have to be careful about that because my kitchen can become very cluttered because I'm kind of one of those in between people. I like to cook, I like to entertain, but I don't necessarily entertain a ton. We don't have people over to our house super often. And so, what I need, what's essential to me in my kitchen, is going to look different from someone who entertains a ton, and it's going to look different from someone who doesn't entertain at all, right? And that's okay. But it's my responsibility to know what that looks like and to know what's required for me in those kinds of instances. What's required, what's needed. Then there's also those items in our lives that are just nice to have. Maybe they make something a little bit easier. When I think of the kitchen, I can think of, oh my gosh, probably so many gadgets in my kitchen. One of those Apple things that you like pop the apple on it and then you crank it and it peels it and it cores it and slices it and whatever, like all in one. That is totally a nice to have gadget, right? And I use that maybe twice a year if I make an apple pie. And that is a gadget that I continue to hold on to and I continue to shake my head at. Like every time I'm going, oh my gosh, Lauren, you could use your potato peeler, vegetable peeler, whatever that I peel carrots, potatoes. I could do, use that for apples. There are so many different things I could repurpose that I use more frequently. But that one it's nice to have. It makes it really fast to core, peel, and slice multiple apples when I'm trying to whip up a pie. And so I choose to continue to hold on to that gadget. It doesn't take up a ton of space. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like, how am I supposed to store this thing, right? There aren't any feelings like that. And so it is allowed to continue to take up space in my kitchen, right? That's one of those nice to have products. So a lot of times we have to take those things that we think, well, that's nice to have. Do I really need it? Do I really want it? Do I want to maintain it? Do I want it taking up space? Do I want to have to dust around it, depending on what it may be, or clean around it, whatever? Do I want it to hold space that I could be using for something else that is more useful or required for some reason, but maybe I just feel like I don't have space for it? So you get to make those decisions. And I want you to feel empowered in those, to be able to look at something and decide, is it required? Is it, essential? Is it needed? Is it nice to have and I do want to keep it? Or is it nice to have, but maybe I don't really need it? Or maybe I could borrow it. Yeah, maybe I could borrow an all-in-one apple peeler, corer, slicer, whatever it all it does. I don't even know what all that thing does. But you know what I'm talking about, right? But I've decided I have the space for it. And I've decided that it's nice to have enough that, yes, I am willing to maintain it. Okay. Then you have to look at your items and think about what's excessive. If you are busting at the seams in your kitchen, let's just stick with the kitchen for a minute. If your kitchen cabinets are busting at the seams, you don't have space for things. You've got overflow storage for kitchen stuff all over the house in random cabinets, furniture, maybe down in your basement or in the back of a closet. You've got, an air fryer, your backup air fryer, whatever it may be tucked away. What's excessive? Is that excessive? Do you need 2 air fryers? Do you need, whatever XYZ, fill in the blank? If you're not using it or you haven't used it in a real long time, especially if you haven't used it in over a year, it might be an excessive product and maybe you're done managing it. Allow yourself to recognize those items in your home and release them. Donate them. Sell them if it's something of value and you'd like to, see if you can recoup some costs. That's totally up to you. All right, another minimalist principle that I really, really love is the idea of quality over quantity. And I think most frequently we think about this when it comes to our closets. Okay. Fast fashion is a big thing. Okay. Styles come and go. You have all these retailers who are offering really inexpensive clothing, that fast fashion, that high, kind of trendy look inexpensively. It doesn't necessarily last very long. And so we tend to accumulate a lot of it because you never know when it's going to wear out. Okay. And it starts to become a lot to manage. So the idea that, or this principle that many minimalists embrace is trying to steer clear of some of that and really find that they are investing in higher quality items, your clothing, your shoes, dishes, pots and pans. There's a whole number of things, multitude of things that this could apply to. But then it also encourages you to buy more timeless pieces. When you're buying higher quality, knowing it's going to last longer, you have a focus on a more timeless piece, especially when we're thinking about our wardrobes or our shoes. Maybe you're investing in getting items repaired or tailored because they are higher quality. They were a bit of an investment. They're still in good shape, but maybe the heel wore out on your pumps and you need to get the heels repaired, take them to a cobbler and have that taken care of. Or, maybe your weight fluctuated, but you still love these pants and they're still in great shape. So rather than going and buying new pants, you take them to a tailor and just have them taken in or let out or whatever you need to do. And so that can really help with consumption if that's something that you're concerned about, right? And here again, you can take it back to simplicity, that simplicity principle, and kind of combine that in with the quality over quantity, and if you think about, if I'm going to invest in some things, for example, you see a lot of people talk about capsule wardrobes. Now, this is not something I have personally invested in for myself and moved to a capsule wardrobe. I have a fairly simple wardrobe, but I definitely would not call it a capsule wardrobe at all. But for some folks, the idea of a capsule wardrobe to them means that they would be a slave to their laundry room, right? And that does not work for them. Or bringing their wardrobe down to a really minimal level that just feels so freeing to go in and there's all this space between your clothes hanging in the closet. I mean, can you imagine it? But if you're going to be a slave to your laundry room and that doesn't work for you, maybe you are just busy, 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 and you can only get to the laundry once a week. Maybe that's your routine or that's how you like to do it. That's how you like to function. Then that's okay. Then you need to buy enough clothes, make adjustments to that continuum, right? To be able to accommodate that and allow you to get through a full week comfortably with options in your wardrobe, right? It's all about taking these principles and making it work for you. The last principle that I want to share with you today is the idea of intentionality. I love this one because I'm always talking about being familiar with your priorities, identifying those priorities, recognizing those priorities, and honoring those priorities. Those priorities help you to be intentional in what you're choosing to bring in your house that you want to manage. So the more you can hone in on what is truly a priority for you, the more beneficial that intentionality and the more it's going to come to the forefront of your thinking more naturally. It's just going to be an unconscious way of thinking. You won't even have to think about it. When you know and can keep your focus on things that are the most important to you, then that's going to steer your decision making in how you want to embrace these minimalist principles in your life. Do the items you're left with when you've made all your decisions, are they contributing to a more meaningful and fulfilling life? When you look at the items that you're choosing to keep, are they contributing to a more meaningful and fulfilling life? That's a really like, woo, that's an awesome responsibility, an empowering responsibility to be able to make the decisions on what's going to be a part of your life to make it more meaningful and more fulfilling for you. My friend, there is so much that we can embrace at different levels in our lives to help support our priorities, to help create that foundation for ourselves that allows us to step into living life with less frustration, less overwhelm, and less stress. That's what it's all about. Living life organized from all angles. Come back and join me next week. We're going to talk about minimalism one more time. I'll see you then.